Hey everyone, this is Andrew at Plainview Farm. So it has been very rainy here lately, and I don't want anybody to think that I'm complaining about the rain, because you know farmers shouldn't complain about rain, but there's been a lot of rain. This has been a very good spring in terms of rain. It's really muddy, a lot of rain, but that has not deterred me from getting at least some things done. I have managed to get this pasture on the northern side of the property, got it mowed here and there and everywhere the last few days. So if you see here, I've got some corner posts set. What was left over of my utility poles that I salvaged to make posts out of on my grazing system last year. These are not as good a shape as those are. Not that those are like brand new, but you know, these are the worst of them. But for what I'm doing, they'll be just fine. But these are to fence off an area for the pigs that I can plant cover crops in, rotate the pigs through, that kind of thing. Keep them in a designated area, at least when I want to. Now, I didn't film myself setting these posts because it was really hot, humid, raining on and off, and I was just trying to get it done. And frankly, I don't want to watch somebody dig a hole and set corner posts. If you did want to see me digging holes and setting corner posts, well, I'm sorry, but I didn't record it. All right, and it's windy because I'm pretty sure there's another storm system coming in for more rain, so I'm sorry if the wind is messing with the audio, but I've got everything laid out here. Like I said, here's my corner post that I'm gonna start with. I've got my spinning jenny laying right here if it is in the frame of the camera. It has most of a roll of 12 gauge high tensile wire, which this is what I used on my perimeter fences, and that's what I'm going to be using here because it's what I have, and I'm doing my very best to not spend any money building this fence, or at least minimal amounts of money, trying to just use up some of the stuff that I already have on hand. So like I said, got most of a roll of 12 gauge high tensile, and we're going to set our line posts similar to what I did on the grazing system on the south side of the property. If you've not seen the videos that talk about that, be sure and check those out. So the first thing I'm going to do is get my spinning jenny set up here. And actually, my spinning jenny, this is a homemade deal. I just took a piece of steel, some angle iron, and made my own. It's just some scrap stuff I had sitting around. Like I said, just made my own. Used a piece of all thread to hold it all together. Let's see if we can do this without hurting ourselves. The way that I do this is I just drive this thing into the ground, pull it back out when I'm done. There, that ought to work. Normally on my posts I would wrap a wire and use an end or termination insulator to start my pull, but I don't have enough of those to do that. Like I said, try not to spend money. So I'm going to wrap the post and then, you know, pull off or pull that way, which this right here, this won't be the post that I pull off of necessarily, just explaining it here. I've not really had a lot of luck using insul tube to wrap a post with thread wire, you know, through a piece of black insul tube and then pull. I don't know, maybe the stuff that I've bought is just a poor quality. I don't know. Anyway, I do have a couple pieces of this. PEX pipe. PEX pipe is basically the same thing, works the same way as insul tube. Because I never throw anything away, you know, I keep small sections of PEX like this around. And so I'm going to use this to wrap around the post. We'll put our wire through and then terminate our wires. And kind of figure out what length I need in order to accomplish this. I'm gonna have to do this on both ends. This is going to be a 4-wire fence, so I'll need 8 sections. And it'll be a really pretty blue. Actually, blue's probably my favorite color, I guess. All right, so that'll get the job done. Like I said, then we'll just thread our wire through and then tie it off, and that will serve as our insulator on our end posts. I can't get 8 pieces out of this section. I've got another one in the building. And no, I'm sure PEX is not UV safe, so I'm sure it'll break down over time, but I would guess it'll probably last as long as our corner posts will. Alrighty, there we go. Now, I'm going to mark where I'm gonna put my wires on my posts. Oh, this mud. Alright, so we will go, since we got pigs in here, we're gonna go with roughly 7. We'll go 7, 14-ish. 7, 14, 24, and then 40. How's that sound? All right, I need you to remember that, okay? 7, 14, 24, and 40. The goal is here to keep the pigs in, keep the cows, and if we're lucky, the goats out. Yeah. And away we go. Maybe. And I slow down as I get to this post. All right, so this post right here will be our first stop. Whenever you're putting up wire like this, usually the first one takes the longest to get where it's going, simply because you've got to do a lot of little things like what I'm about to show you right here. I'm going to put these insulators on these corners here where I'm making my turn, and they are going to serve the purpose of, well, of insulating the fence as it goes around the corner. So what I have to do is basically get enough wire to be able to tie this insulator off to the post, tie it to the insulator. I think that right there ought to be good enough. This is one of these things that as you do this more, you'll kind of get things figured out how you like to do them. Okay, so I need 4 pieces of wire roughly this long. Okay, put that there. And I'll start tying these off. Actually, I'm going to take my gloves off for this part. It's easier for me to do this barehanded. And okay, so normally what I would do if I was using this to terminate an end is I would wrap this way. If I was like, you know, just terminating an end to run this way, wrap the post that way. But since we're going to be running a wire through it, I'm going to use opposite ends for that purpose to kind of offset this, reduce the likelihood that we'll have any arcing, that kind of thing. Good grief. If you've seen my other videos, you likely know that I don't do a whole lot of fancy knots and all that kind of stuff. I'm a keep it simple, stupid kind of guy, so. I'm a firm believer that you really only need to wrap the wire a few times, especially on this big, heavy, hard stuff. And then that's more than enough to take care of the job. We're not going to be putting this wire under a whole lot of tension anyway. We just want it to stay tightish. Okay. Now, do you remember what it was, our measurements, where we marked the previous post? What was it? Oh yeah, it was 7, 14, 24, and 40. I'm glad I put that there. Now, right now, I'm just going to wire these up right here. And I will come back later and put in a fence steeple, or a staple for those of you who say it wrong. I'm just kidding, they're probably staples, at least, or they used to be steeples, but I think the box says staples these days. Anyway, that's one of those funny things that get people all upset on the internet. It's not a steeple. I'm gonna go through and put a bend in the wire, roughly the same location on each one of them, so that our wires. All right, whoops, camera got hot and gave up the ghost on me there. So, what was I doing? As I was saying, I'll come back later and add a fence steeple to all of these wires. But for now, I'm just going to get them kind of roughly in place where they go. Now, you'll probably notice something that I don't do that others may use on a fence like this, and that is those really big tension springs. I don't use them because, number one, I don't have a lot of fence. I don't have a lot of land. I'm not trying to cover a big area, and you know, so I don't really have the problem that those help prevent. Which what those things do is they're really good. I mean, they're a good thing to have, and if, like I said, if you're fencing off a big area of land, it's probably good to have those. But they help in the event that something does run through your fence. It kind of helps keep insulators from popping, wires from breaking, that kind of thing. Whenever I say insulators from popping, I mean coming off of the posts. But only being on 20 acres, I don't have that problem, so I don't use those. All right, so as I was saying, right here we've got, these are going to be our corner insulators. We'll slip our wire through these on each one of these areas. and this will serve as the insulator for our turns, for our corners. I'm gonna go do this exact same thing to that other post down there, and then we'll come back and get our wire. We'll slip our tensioner through it, and I'll show you how all that goes. All right, so here we go. What do I wanna do? Do I wanna start with the top, bottom, or somewhere in the middle? Actually, here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna start with the middle wire. That'll help us figure out where we get our posts. Just a little bit easier, I guess. See if we can do this without the spinning Jenny hanging up on us. One thing I also do on fences like this, at least, is I'll get to about what's roughly the middle of the fence, and I will thread my tensioner, which I've got them over here laying on the ground. I'll run my tensioners through or I'll set them up on the wire. So if you look at the end of this tensioner right here, it has a hole on it. There's a hole there as well on the actual, whatever you call it, the reel. And what I do to make the whole job easier, save me from having to split the wire somewhere, is I just run the wire, thread it through the tensioner, and then whenever I'm ready to put tension on the wire, I will come back and tighten this thing up, and it will tension the wire without me having to put a break in it anywhere or cut in it, and the wire will be tight. Now it is likely to follow me as I walk, as you can see there. Here's the tensioner. Come over to this corner, thread our way through, and go on to the end. Oh, and a simple trick if you have to stop for some reason whenever you're pulling the wire, you can just put a curve in it, a bend in it, like a 90-degree bend. Just jam it in the soil, and that'll keep it from rolling back up on itself. Because, you know, wire does like to do that kind of thing. Hello, little pigs. Little pigs all over here to greet me. All right, so as I was saying, using these pieces of, yep, there goes my wire. Try all that again. As I was saying, using these pieces of PEX pipe in the place of insul tube, we will thread our wire through it like so. We get to our spot on the post where we want to be. And then we will wrap around the post. Of course, the PEX can be kind of stiff. And then just wrap our wire. Tie it off, however you want to say it. Like I said, this serves the same purpose as the insul tube, but the wall on that PEX is just a little bit thicker, so I'm hoping that it will hold up better. If not, I can come back and do something else later. Now we've just got to go back to the other end, terminate on that post, and then put some tension on the wire at our tensioner. Then we can start setting our line posts. And what I'll probably do with that piece of PEX pipe is I'll get some, I don't know, what do you call them, plumbing straps, just the little brackets or whatever that hold a piece of pipe where it's supposed to go and run some screws into it or a couple nails just to keep it from sliding around. Now we'll pull back from that side. Figure out where we need to cut our wire. Roughly there-ish. And repeat the same process, but this time over here. Like I said before, I am putting 4 strands in this fence, not because I think that's what I need to hold the pigs, but I think that's hopefully going to be enough to keep the goats out. I want to be able to use the big bulk feeder, automatic feeder, and not have to worry about cows or goats trying to get in there with the pigs, especially when I don't want them to be. All right, so we're headed back over here now to figure out where our tensioner ended up, and then kind of get it placed where we want it, and then we will put a little tension on it, like I said, so we can set our line posts. Oh, there it is. Okay, so I have discovered that there's about 60 steps between these 2 posts. So I want to try to put my tensioners where they are close to a steel T-post instead of end up, you know, resting on a fiberglass post. So I'm going to step things off. We're going to put 2 steel T-posts in here at about 20 paces each. So I'm going to step this off and kind of figure out where those T-posts are going to be. Then I will get my tensioner placed and we'll put some tension on it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 19, 20. Use my foot, make a mark on the ground. 1, 2, 10. Here's our tensioner. 18, 19, 20. So I decided to put it on this side. I'll go ahead and make my mark. Decided to put it on this side, closer to this far post, because it's a longer distance on that end than it is on the end where you are. So T-post will go here. We'll back off to this side. All right, now I will use my handy dandy crescent hammer to put some tension on this wire. Now you can buy like these handles for these things that you know, work on these tensioners. You can kind of like a ratchet handle kind of a deal. They hook in there and go back and forth, but crescent hammer works just fine. Okay, I think that'll do. Now that we have some tension on the wire, like I said, we can figure out how to keep our T-posts and actually all of our line posts in a straight line, you know, if you're into that sort of thing. I mean, whatever, you know. Was that like so 2020? I don't know. Do people even use that effect anymore? All right, now before I put the clips on and all that, I'm just going to go ahead and pull the rest of the wire, and I'll do all the clips at one time. So 1, 2, 3. Now let me tell you something. During that split second of magic, I lost my breath, and we got a pretty good downpour of rain, so all the nice cool dry air is going away. The sun's come out. We're getting nice and humid, which is perfect whenever you're working outside. Absolutely perfect. I've got my shark bite. What are they called? Sorry, got pecks on the brain. I've got my lock jaws insulators here. Now I don't know if these will work on the posts that I used here, because these posts are those really narrow, thin T-posts. So I'm going to put these on. If they don't work, I may have to replace them eventually, but we'll just see how it goes. Okay, so one of the things I do is whenever I put these tensioners on here, I will stagger them out, you know, that way they're not right on top of one another. And then I tighten them down, in which on this one, I split the post here. 2 of them on one side, 2 of them on the other. Now the thing about this high tensile wire, this high tensile electric wire, is that you don't want it to be, oops, you don't want it to be too tight. It should sag a little bit, at least on long runs like this, which I'm gonna put in some fiberglass rods to kind of help keep it at the appropriate height. But like I said, there should be a sag in it. It's not meant to be super, super tight. And that is so it'll have some springiness to it in the event that something runs into it. As I mentioned before about the big tension springs that a lot of folks may put on their fences. Those big tension springs, they allow the fence to flex. But doing it like this also allows some give in the fence. So I've mentioned this in other videos, and I'll mention it here as well. One of the things I do whenever I build an electric fence like this with the little pig serenading us in the background is I always leave a really long tail on usually the top wire. Bottom wire works too. I mean, you could use any wire, but honestly it works better if you use the top or the bottom. Oh, here comes the sow. She heard the little piggies. Heard the little piggies hollering, thinks they're getting fed, and she's not. So what I do is try to leave enough slack that I can then run this long tail from one top wire down to the next wire, down to the next wire, and I'll wrap it a few times on each one. And what this does is this links all of them together without having to use any jumper wires and clips and, you know, those kinds of things. You're all right, man. You're all right. You're all right. You're not gonna starve, I promise. Let me get over here on this side. It's easier for me to do it from this side. So like I said, I just loop that wire around a few times, hopefully not bringing it back into my face or anything like that. And that is to make our electrical connection. And then I will do the same all the way down. Now, if I do like my perimeter fences and I've got wires in between these that are, you know, like a ground wire, then I will put a piece of insul tube over this, you know, to protect it from grounding itself out. But in this instance, there's really nothing needed here because these are all hot wires. All right, there we go. And then I will leave this tail right here until I run my wire over from the fence to make it all hot. All right, so now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go through and get all of my fiberglass rods all set up, get the clips where I want them, and then we'll get them installed. All right, now while all of you were enjoying your nice little break, I went through and I took these fiberglass rods and put all these clips at the appropriate distances in order for them to go onto the fence. And I'll set the first couple here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, roughly. I believe that's about right. Now what I'll do is I'll hammer this thing into the ground about 6 inches. That is until the top of it hits about 42 inches. All right, that's about right. Now I'll go through, get each one of these clips, the wire on each one of them. And there we go. Now, one thing that I have learned is that it makes a whole lot of sense to just clip these things down onto the wire, or pinch the clamps down onto the wire. That way they don't come off so easy in the event that a critter decides to run through the fence. And honestly, that's all there is to it. So I will go through and I'll place one of these every 10 paces, roughly. Every T-post is about every 20 paces all the way through. So like I said, I'll go through and put one of these every 10 paces or so, and then the fence will be done. And there we are. We have all of our line posts in place. Top wire probably needs to be tightened up just a little bit more. Still got some waves in it, but we'll do that in time. Of course, now we've got a calf trapped. All right, so all the posts and the wires are where they're supposed to be. I still need to put in a couple gates. I think I'll build probably a couple wooden gates to go on each end. One will be attached to the corner of the building over there, and then the other will be on this H-brace that runs across the back side of the garden. But I'm happy. All in all, I think I probably did about, I don't know, 3 hours of work whenever I was actually working and not jacking with the camera or trying to stay dry in the rain. And honestly, that's one of my favorite things about this kind of fence. They go up so fast. So as always, I appreciate you watching. We'll see you next time. Better feed those little piggies.